Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening for our Cumberland Family Academy workshop. Cumberland Family Academy is a Cumberland County Schools initiative. The Cumberland Family Academy is committed to enriching the lives of children by bringing parents, guardians, and schools closer together as equal partners. When families have high expectations for children and encourage them to work hard, they support and promote a child's academic, social, and emotional well-being. The purpose of the Family Academy program is to provide families with the necessary tools to support the success of their child's education. This evening, our workshop presenters are Samantha Oxendine and Candace Revels from our Cumberland County Schools Office of Indian Education. Our topic for tonight is motivating the unmotivated child.
Good evening, Cumberland County School families. Once again, I am Samantha Oxendine. I am the counselor with the Office of Indian Education. This is my 11th year in education, and I truly enjoy working with the youth. And to tell you just a little bit about our program, the Office of Indian Education, we are housed at the ERC, and we service children who are American Indian students. And in order for us to service them, we do have 506 forms on file. And if any parents are on here that would like to receive services from us, please contact the Office of Indian Education.
Hi, everyone. My name is Candace Revels. I am the social worker with the Office of Indian Education. This is my 6th year in education and my 4th year as a social worker. So my heart is truly for social work and helping families in any way possible and seeing our students succeed. So I'm excited about doing this presentation with you guys and just sharing the resources that we have to help you and your family just have a better school year overall and at home and at school.
So let's get started. Once again, remember you are going to be placed on mute and sign in once you come in, and the link is in the chat. And remember, there is a door prize at the end, and questions will be placed in the chat, so we will answer those at the end of the presentation. So to start off, these are our objectives that we will cover tonight. Of course, we are going to talk about motivation, what motivation looks like, understanding more about motivation, and we're going to be busting some myths and identifying some risk with motivation, and also equipping you all with the tools needed to help your child if you do have an unmotivated child or if they do become motivated throughout the school year.
So to start it off, we are going to hear a pep talk from our KID president. You may have seen this video. I love it. It motivates me every time. So what better way to start talking about motivation than to start off with a motivative video? So this is our KID president.
I think we all need a pep talk. The world needs you to stop being boring. Yeah, you. Boring is easy. Everybody can be boring, but you're gooder than that. Life is not a game, people. Life isn't a cereal either. Well, it is a cereal. And if life is a game, aren't we all on the same team? I mean, really, right? I'm on your team, be on my team. This is life, people. You got air coming through your nose. You got heartbeat. That means it's time to do something. A poem. 2 roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled. It hurt, man! Really bad. Rocks, thorns, and glass. My pants broke. Wah! Not cool, Robert Frost. But what if there really were 2 paths? I want to be the one that leads to awesome. It's like that dude Journey said, don't stop believing. Unless you dream stupid, then you should get a better dream. I think that's how it goes. Get a better dream, then keep going. Keep going, keep going, and keep going. Will Michael Jordan have quit? Well, he did quit. No, he retired. Yeah, he retired. But before that, in high school, what if he quit when he didn't make the team? He would have never made Space Jam. And I love Space Jam. What would be your Space Jam? What will you create will make the world awesome? Nothing if you keep sitting there. That's why I'm talking to you today. This is your time. This is my time. It's our time. We can make every day better for each other. If we're all on the same team, let's start acting like it. We got work to do. We can cry about it, or we can dance about it. We were made to be awesome. Let's get out there. I don't know everything. I'm just a kid. But I do know this. It's everybody's duty to give the world a reason to dance. So get to it. You've just been pep talked. Create something that will make the world awesome. Play ball.
Okay, I don't know how you can't feel motivated after watching that video. It never gets old. We always need a pep talk, some encouragement, just a reminder to keep us going of why we do what we do. And so just like Kid President says, choose the path that leads to awesomeness. What is your Space Jam? So keep thinking about that. Keep thinking about that for your children as we move forward in this presentation.
Thank you, Miss Candace. I just love Kid President. I think he's so hilarious. But while he was talking, I constantly thought of motivation, which is once again our topic for tonight. But just think about it. Something, or we're all motivated by something or someone. As a matter of fact, something or someone motivated you all to engage in this family engagement session tonight. So, and we do appreciate your attendance once again. Of course, to understand motivation, we have to first learn more about what motivation is. And surprisingly, there are actually two types of motivation: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is basically, the definition is kind of in the name, the in also meaning inside. So intrinsic motivation basically comes from within a person. And a lot of times there is no need for a reward to motivate you. There is enough drive inside of a person that is motivation enough. So that's the intrinsic motivation. For example, playing soccer for fun, or volunteering because you enjoy helping others, even playing with your child because you want to feel connected. These are all intrinsic motivation. Another one is cleaning because you enjoy cleaning. No, wait a minute. This one doesn't sound right. Candace, did you add this one in there? I don't know about that one.
I definitely did not.
Well, let's move on to extrinsic motivation, because I don't know about that last intrinsic example. But extrinsic motivation is exactly the opposite of intrinsic. Basically, it is engaging in activities or events because you are expecting a reward or you're trying to avoid a punishment. Now, it does not mean that extrinsic motivation is always bad. Sometimes it's a good thing. And there are sometimes some instances where it is actually hard to, or nearly impossible, to avoid extrinsic motivation. For example, when playing tennis for a trophy, most likely you are playing tennis because you enjoy it, which would be the intrinsic motivation. But then playing for a trophy is the extrinsic motivation. So therefore, they both are working hand in hand. And that's my next point, where sometimes we can actually have both extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Some more examples of extrinsic motivation is volunteering because you want others to like you or see what you are doing, or playing with your child to even prevent a tantrum. So that, once again, are more examples of extrinsic motivation. Another example of how intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation go hand in hand is, think about exercising. We want to lose weight because we want to be more healthy. We want to have more energy. We want to be more fit. But then on the Other side, we want to look good in outer appearances to others. So those are both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. You may say, why do I even need to know these types of motivations? Well, first off, it helps to know what it looks like, especially when you are trying to determine if your child is motivated or not. And if they are motivated, is it an intrinsic motivation or is it an extrinsic motivation? Basically, a lot of times intrinsic motivations are more long-term because you have that drive within. You're motivated. You don't need something or someone to motivate you. Sometimes we all need a little pep talk. Yes, sometimes we all need a little reminder of how wonderful we are or why we are on the journey that we're on or trying to complete the task we are trying to complete. However, sometimes those little pep talks is short term, which will be the extrinsic. So if your child is more motivated extrinsically, then most likely that motivation is going to be short-lived. As soon as they acquire their reward or as soon as they avoid that punishment, they're going to be right back to square one with the lack of motivation. So I feel like, Candace, I did a really great job with explaining what intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is. So I say we give them a pop quiz.
I think that's a great idea. And I'm almost 100% sure everybody's going to get every question right.
I hope so.
Yes.
Because if not, we're going to have to come back and I'm going to have to explain all of that again.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a review.
Yeah.
So we are going to do something that's probably very, very familiar with your student, your child, which is Kahoot. Let's Kahoot about it. And this is a fun way to just review what information that a teacher has shared with the class. So if you have your phone or computer or tablet, you're going to go to kahoot.it. It's right there on the screen for you. And I'm about to share the game pin in the chat. Once you get to kahoot.it, you're going to enter this game pin, and then the game that we're going to play is going to be available to you. And I'll say the game pin out loud in case you can't see the chat, and it's on the screen. It's 1631936. That's the game pin.
And once again, just go to Kahoot, KAHOOT.it. And it will ask you right away to enter a game pin.
Okay, I think we got a few people jumping in. We'll wait a few more seconds, let some more people. Someone said wait. All the kids go crazy when they hear this sound. All right, here we go, guys. Reading a book for pleasure. Is this an intrinsic or an extrinsic motivation? Oh, 100%. Good job. See, y'all's proving me to be right already. Good job, class. Let's keep it going. Paying taxes to avoid a fine. Ooh. Okay. I believe we got some overachievers on our hands. Going to the movies to chaperone. Okay, that one was a little tricky maybe. Chaperoning is a duty and not a pleasure, I guess you could say. So that's why it might have been extrinsic. Taking a walk to relax. Taking a walk to relax. Good job. Good job. Arctic Pony is in the lead. Whoever you are, good job. Watching a movie for excitement. Okay.
Ooh, Arctic Pony. Someone knocked you out of first place.
Taking a walk to lose weight. Is that intrinsic or extrinsic? Motivated by outcomes. Oh, Arctic crab, moving on up. Traveling because you have to for work. Good job. We're back on track. The amazing goat is amazing. Cooking because you enjoy trying new meals. Oh, okay, we got some good competition here. All right, going to the playground with your children because it makes you happy. Awesome.
Three more questions.
Still got time to take the lead. Cleaning your house because it makes you feel clean. The otter took the lead. Traveling because you want to explore new places. Otter's still in the lead. Somebody's got to knock them off. All right, here's the moment of truth. Cooking because your family is hungry. Okay, Bronze Otter, you are the winner. Congratulations. You are the champion of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. I want to talk about that one that said, I think everyone but one person got it wrong. The cleaning because it makes you feel clean. That one was kind of confusing because I like to feel clean, but I think maybe if it had said cleaning because you have family coming over, you know, that's like an extrinsic motivator, but because you want to feel clean, that kind of seems like an intrinsic. So I could see how some people, you know, like 90% chose the opposite, and that one person got it right. But thank you guys for participating. We really appreciate that. And so we're going to move forward with what does unmotivated child even look like? You know, how do you recognize the signs or the symptoms of unmotivation? And so this is just the list that we've compiled. This is not a comprehensive list, but you know, they would rather do something else other than what they're supposed to be on task doing. Or they don't complete their assignments, or they don't complete chores at home, you know, leaving things unfinished. Maybe they get sidetracked or just don't want to do it at all. You may say, gosh, why are you so lazy? You know, we get in those heated moments, or their teacher might say, you know, you're just not completing your work. You're not doing the things that I ask. They just don't seem to care about anything, or poor self-esteem about themselves, or they don't want to do something or even try it because they're scared they're going to fail. That's that poor self-esteem. And not a desire to try new things. And then, you know, obviously poor attendance, poor grades. So these are some things that when you're paying attention to your child, or you know, trying to figure out what's going on with them, look for these signs. Like I said, this isn't comprehensive, but they can help you better define what an unmotivated child looks like for you. Are they constantly expressing that they are too tired or they're bored? I hear that all the time. I'm tired, I'm bored. And, you know, I come back with, you know, you're too young to be tired, or there's so many things to do, you know, there's no way you could be bored. But maybe we're just not triggering that part of them that really sparks them to really motivate them. Or, you know, has their involvement at home and school changed? Maybe they were once motivated and now they're not. Take some time to really analyze the situation. What changed in their life? You know, and sometimes we have to talk about the hard things. Was it a move? Was it a marriage? Was it a divorce? Was it a family member, you know, losing a family member? We have to think about those things and how that really does play a role in our child's lives. Anything that is happening to us is also happening to them, because they live with us. They're in our presence, they're in our home. So anybody under our roofs, they can be affected just the same. So think about those things. You know, their appetite, has their appetite changed? Or does something just feel off about them? Because you know your child best. You've been with them, you know, if they're your birth child since the time they were born, or since however long you've had them, you know your child the best. You have your parental intuition, and take advantage of that, use that. And so maybe your child may be sending some signs to you, or some signals that you're picking up on, and we're going to ask those hard questions. And if you answered yes to any of these, then maybe your child is unmotivated. And we're going to talk about what can you do about it? You know, why is my child unmotivated? And that's what Sam's about to go into now.
Thank you, Candace. Oh, look at this guy. He looks so unmotivated, doesn't he? So we're going to discuss, why is your child unmotivated? Now, unmotivation is not a cookie cutter recipe. There is no perfect, okay, this is why your child is unmotivated, and this is what you can do about it. So of course, once again, for example, these top 4 are the most common reasons why most children are unmotivated. The first one being relevance. Your child, or a child you may know, they may not see any relevance in their task, that their chore they're completing at home, or the assignment or task they are to complete at school. And they will oftentimes as educators, we hear, what's the point of doing this? Why am I doing this? I'm never going to use it in real life. Or, well, I don't like math. I'm not going to be a mathematician or a scientist, so why does it matter? So with this, and I'm sure you as parents, I know I have as a parent heard those words before. So that is where it is our duty as parents to emphasize and to place high emphasis on education. If children understand that education is important, and we constantly remind them why education is important, then they will tend to work harder in school, because they know, number one, there's value on education, and they know also the importance of education in obtaining future endeavors. The next thing, one of the next reasons of why a child may be unmotivated is fear. Fear, also known as anxiety, can cause all of us to shy away from things. And oftentimes, students do not know how to cope with fear. And a lot of times they feel embarrassed, or they have a fear of failure. And so they will not try new things. And that, once again, looks like a lack of motivation. Or if they're confused in class, they may not ask questions because they're too afraid to raise their hand. That, once again, can look like a lack of motivation. So fear is a lot of times a big reason that children avoid schoolwork or even school. Another look of unmotivation, or another reason why your child may be unmotivated, is inadequacy. He or she just may feel inadequate. If a child constantly fails at something, then a lot of times they're not going to be too thrilled and say, yes, I'm going to keep on so I can keep on failing. Most kids are not going to do that. I don't even know most adults that are going to do that. However, there is a difference in having the tenacity or perseverance to continue to do something. And once again, that falls back into that intrinsic motivation, just having the perseverance to just keep pushing and keep trying. But sometimes a lot of kids, when they do fail at something, for some kids, school is just hard. They may have a difficult time catching on to something. So therefore, or they may struggle. They may struggle in math, or they may struggle in reading. So sometimes kids are just going to lose motivation, because once again, now they have low self-esteem. Now they have a fear of failing. So then they're going to feel like, what is the point of this? That relevance piece. So it's a trickle-down effect. And the next thing of why your child may be unmotivated, it could very well be that they are uninspired. They could be simply bored, or the work is too complicated. Bored because it's not challenging enough. But then on the other hand, things may just be too hard. So either way, kids tend to turn off. They're not going to pay attention in class. They're going to doodle, or they're not going to complete their task at all. Think about it. When is the last time you watched a boring movie, and at the end of the movie, I'm sure many of you, I know I have, so I'll speak for myself. I have said, I just wasted an hour and a half of my life that I will never get back. Well, some students actually feel this way about school. Some students feel like I am wasting my time. Now, once again, I am not giving you the keys right now to say, okay, well, how do I stop this? This is just so you can recognize these signs, and recognize and understand and talk with your child, which one of these is why you are unmotivated. So Now that we've talked about why your child is unmotivated, let's bust some myths about motivation. I love this picture of kids because they're all distracted and unmotivated because of their own reason. But once again, it's important to know why your child may be unmotivated, but it's also important to know that there are myths about motivation. So not everything is true. And once again, I'm going to reiterate, everyone can be motivated by something, whether it's going to be long-term motivation or short-term motivation. Everyone can be motivated by something. But what we are motivated by, that differs between person to person, topic to topic, or situation to situation. Think of different things that motivate you. Well, what may motivate you does not motivate the next person, or what may motivate you may not motivate your child. However, we can all be motivated by something. But it is important that we understand that this is also a double-edged sword. Once again, with that extrinsic motivation, we can be motivated long enough to receive a reward or to avoid a punishment. And once again, we will get into ways of how we can combat that with our kids. Now, let's bust these myths about motivation. The first common, and once again, these are not all of the myths. These are just 4 common ones that are very popular. So the first one being, an unmotivated student cannot be motivated. This isn't so. I just talked about how we are all motivated by something. It just depends upon a child's interest. Let's look at an example. Let's look at Jeremy. Jeremy, he is a student, and when it is math class, Jeremy turns off during math class. He starts to look out the window, he starts to doodle on his papers, and he really doesn't follow instructions in completing his task. However, on the baseball field, Jeremy is focused, he's persistent, and he performs really well. Then on the other hand, we have Mary. Mary is actively engaged in class, and she completes all of her assignments promptly. However, her parents signed her up for dance class. Mary dreads to go to dance. She doesn't participate well, and oftentimes she complains about a stomach ache before it's time to go. So these are 2 examples of how we have 2 students who are both motivated by something, however, their interests are different. So that first myth, we just busted it. It's no good because we just proved everybody can be motivated by something. It just depends on the interest. The next myth, competition is a motivator. While sometimes it can be, this is not always the case. While playing a sport, yes, a lot of times competition is a big motivator, especially when Eye of the Tiger or We Will Rock You comes on. Seems everybody can just get motivated and pumped. But this isn't always the case. We can't always be led by a song to motivate us. However, there are some students in class, they're also not motivated about winning a prize for winning the spelling test or having the highest spelling test grade, or they're not motivated by winning the multiplication relay race. And this could very well be because the students are not competitive at all. Or once again, there's no motivation about school. They see no relevance in it. Therefore, they don't see the importance in it. So is competition always a motivator? No, because not everyone is competitive. So we busted that myth too. The next myth, motivation is a personality trait or characteristic of a person. This is not true. Think back about Jeremy and Mary. It wasn't because of their personality traits or characteristics that drove their motivation. It was their interest. A lot of times when we are motivated because of an interest, that interest then leads to goal setting. That then leads to completion of a project. So interest, motivation, goal setting, completion. All of those work hand in hand. So motivation being a personality trait or characteristic of a person, no, we busted that myth too. The last myth we're going to discuss is motivation is enough for success. I think we all know that that is not the case, because we don't need just motivation. We also need skills and strategies beyond motivation in order to complete a task or do something. Think about it. A person wants to run in a 5K, but if you put no training into running or no effort, that 5K is not happening with ease. So that motivation is not just enough when they need to roll out an oxygen tank for you. So then on the other side, we also do have kids who are highly motivated. They do have the motivation, but they struggle for many reasons. However, because these kids do have the motivation, and yes, they may struggle academically, and that's okay as long as that intrinsic motivation is there. Because as long as intrinsic motivation is there, that drive, that tenacity and perseverance we talked about earlier is there, and that is what is going to push that child to continuously try to succeed. So, motivation is enough for success alone? No, it's not. But it does contribute, but it's not the only thing we need for success. So we busted that myth too.
So if motivation left untreated, that is risky. And you're like, okay, why is it so risky? Is my child staying in their room all evening and refusing to go to school? Is it really that bad? Yes, it is. There's so many consequences that can, lead your child down the wrong path or detrimental to their educational success. Children learn through stimulation, action, hands-on learning. Their brains are like sponges. They soak up everything. Sponges need water or they're going to dry up. That's the same with our kids, our children. Without stimulation and constant engagement, they become stagnant and disengaged. There's nothing that is catching their attention, making their wheels spin like, wow, I can really do that. Or I didn't even know that was possible. So this risky motivation becomes risky because they're decreasing in their physical activity and their mental stability. So they may become stressed or depressed, and then they stop doing the things they enjoy, like going outside and playing soccer, or engaging in some kind of debate in class, just things that get their wheels spinning. And then obviously when a student is off task, that means they're on another assignment, which is being a distraction to someone else. So that's increased behavior issues or concerns at school, decreased attendance, obviously. And then ultimately, students drop out, and you're saying, wow, my kid playing video games or not wanting to go to school, they're going to drop out. I'm not saying that, but sometimes it might lead to that. Not every kid that has poor attendance might drop out, but maybe they don't fulfill the dreams that they really had inside of them. And had we tapped into that motivation that was just waiting to be discovered, maybe they would fulfill more dreams after graduation. And that's what we really want. We're not just graduating students to get them out of our schools. We want them to be successful leaders, successful contributors to society. And I love seeing where kids are after graduation. I was in breakfast line the other day and I met one of my kids, and now she's working to be a dental hygienist. And I was like, that's so awesome. So we love to see where they are after they leave our hands, because we know that we try to take as good care of them as possible. And we want to know whoever gets them in the world, that they're still in good hands. So if a student is not effectively engaged, they will just become unmotivated. Just like we're sitting in boring presentations, we don't want to sit somewhere and we're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. This pertains nothing to me. No one is saying anything that is speaking to my, my spark plugs. And did you know that the brain is not fully developed until 25? So these brains have so much time to still grow, to still snap off those synapses. And for all you parents of teenagers, a lot of teenagers are driven sometimes by rewards. Sometimes it's sugar and money. Those two things. I'm like, oh, okay. So candy and money sometimes drive them, but those are extrinsic. And like Miss Samantha said, they're not going to last. So we got to find what their passion is. They have less self-control because their prefrontal cortex has not fully developed. And we know this because they like to drive fast and spend a lot of money. Their brain is still being remodeled. And we know that our younger kids, they're even more impressionable. And so finding things that catch their attention. Motivation can be thought of as gas for your car, food for your body, or money for your bank account. And we know how important that is. It's that important. Without any motivation, then we're literally going to be like lumps on a log. Without the motivation, you won't have the go-go juice. And if you don't use it, you will lose it. We find that out the hard way. We used to be awesome in sports at school. You used to be top of the team, and now you try to, dunk a goal or swing a bat, and you're like, oh my gosh, my back is killing me. And then we have people in the NFL that's like 45 still getting it. And I'm like, good for you, because I can't do it anymore. So it's true. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Our children are still learning, still growing and developing. Even if you say, well, my child is mature for their age, that's all well and dandy, but they still need guidance. They still need reassurance and motivation to push them along to avoid the consequences of getting off track or no motivation. Something is going to motivate your child, and we want those things to be positive, to be helpful, and to guide them in the right track. Because if we're not motivating them, at some point they might get motivated by something that we might not want them to be motivated by. So that's where us working together, and I'm going to move to the next slide, is how do we work together to ensure that we're motivating our children in a positive way that helps us to get them to where we want to go. So what can you do at home as a parent, as a family member, as a school employee? What can you do with your children at home? So first, you got to talk. Communication is key. We say that, but we really got to put that into effect. What does that mean? Talking openly, feelings, what are stressing our students? What are their dreams? What are their goals? You got to get inside their heads. If it's in here and it never comes out, then we will never know what that child truly, what was their passion. We always say there's hundreds and thousands of books that were still in the ground because nobody ever put them on paper or let their dreams be expressed. So we got to talk to our children, and that's creating a safe space to talk about hard things, to talk about fun things, just to talk. Whatever your child wants to talk about, open up your living room, open up the kitchen table and say, how was your day? Don't give me that, oh, it was fine, or I didn't learn anything. Ask some questions that probe. There's things that you can do. Get some cubes, and you roll the dice, and the dice tells you the question to ask, and they have to answer it. They can't just say one word or whatever. You put a stipulation on it. Give me 2 sentences about what you did at school today, or what really made you happy. So that's one idea. Family time, eat together, play together, read together, do something together. Whatever it is, do it together. And give your child like healthy responsibility. So I found one thing that I thought was really fun was have your children plan dinner for a week. Give them a budget. Say, here you go. This is the amount. Tell us what we're going to eat for the week. Or maybe you plan, plan your lunch for school if your child takes lunch. See how they do. Are you, fat and sassy by Friday, or are you starving? And then talk about it. Talk about budgeting. That's math. Talk about, grocery shopping. That's just a life skill that I think children need to learn so that in college, they're not blowing their money on all these snacks, nothing nutritional. So yeah, create something that's fun for you. If you love the outside, go on walks. There's so many things that can be done that don't require a lot of money, but it does require your time. And that's where we all have to do better about carving out that time for our children and ourselves. Get involved. What are they interested in getting involved in? Whether it's a school sport, any kind of clubs, drama, acting, choir, chorus, are they interested in playing an instrument? So how can you get involved? And there's all kinds of things across the county that your child can get involved in. The Fayetteville Parks and Rec has awesome programs for sports, for they have a youth council that you can get involved in, and the kids have amazing experiences that maybe you wouldn't have the time to do all these things, but they would take the time with your child, and you can trust that they're in good hands and they're going to get the experiences they need. And then if your child needs like a boost and you're seeing some of those signs of like, my child is definitely unmotivated, I need some assistance, because we can't expect to know all the answers. We can't expect to know all the things that is going to help with our child. So we ask those questions. We reach out to our resources. The Fayetteville Urban Ministries has Find a Friend program. Maybe your child needs a role model, or maybe just someone a little bit older than them that they can look up to, that they can ask questions that maybe they're scared or uncomfortable to ask you. Get them involved in one of those programs, like a Big Brother, Big Sister program. And then lastly, set expectations. If our children don't know kind of like what road to stay on, they're just gonna pick their own road. So discuss your expectations. What do you expect for like their educational outcomes as far as like grades? Are B's okay? Are C's okay? Do you want them to push harder? How hard do you push? You have to ask those questions. What are the consequences? And sometimes, like we talked about, rewards and consequences can be a motivator. Sometimes they're not. You have to see for yourself, is that going to help your child and kind of boost that for them to create their own motivation inside of them without having to do those consequences and rewards. And then place an emphasis on education. We understand that educational outcomes are going to look vastly different for everybody. But the common denominator is that education has to be the foundation. And the first step is high school diploma. For Cumberland County Schools, that is our mission, to graduate all our students and make sure that we have prepared them for the next step. What that next step is going to look different. Every pathway is going to be different for your child, but at least they have that foundation of their education that will hold them up wherever they go. So these pathways are going to look different, but we'll ensure that they have options when they leave us. So what are those expectations for your children?
Thank you, Candace. So she has touched on and talked about how you can help at home. Now I'm going to discuss how we are also here to collaborate and help you at schools. But once again, this is a team effort. So I am going to emphasize again, talk with your child. Just like Ms. Candace said, communication is key. Discuss those interests, discuss their feelings and why they feel that way. Find ways to link their interests with other skills, like she mentioned earlier, with the comic books, and they're still practicing reading skills. Actively listen to them. We can probably all agree, too, that the motivational talk doesn't really help. Whenever we try to give the motivational talk, I'm a parent as well of school-age children, so I can honestly relate to this. A lot of times they feel like we're just preaching to them. So help them to just replace negative talk with positive self-talk. Help them to focus on their successes in and outside of school. And then whenever you're talking about those successes, talk with them about failures. It wouldn't even hurt to talk about some of your failures as much as you want to disclose to your kids, to let them know we are all human, so this happens. And then also, when you're talking with your children, sometimes let them guide, let them assess their own performance and identify what they need to do better. When you get a chance, look up growth mindset. You can simply Google it, growth mindset. Miss Candace, if you will, put that in the chat. That is some great resources to help understand and to give you the tools that you need as parents to teach your child how to do some positive self-talking. So whenever they're being hard on themselves and discouraging, this is how they can do positive self-talking. The next thing, that once you've talked with your child, you have identified maybe why they are unmotivated or why there's a lack of motivation, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, then talk with their teacher. Set up a time to discuss with their teachers maybe what he or she has observed in their classroom with your child. Talk about the behaviors that they notice, the patterns that they notice. Even ask them, well, what are some small successes in your classroom that my child has shown? So that way, when you know about those small successes, you can encourage your child and praise them for it. When you do this and you collaborate with teachers, your child is watching. Remember, those little eyes, or even those bigger eyes as our high schoolers, they are watching what we do. So when you show that education is important and needed, they will too. Then once you collaborate with the teacher, create a plan to help your child become motivated. You may know an interest that the teacher doesn't know about. So if you share that, that would help the teacher in the classroom. Or you may even know a strategy that works well with your child that your teacher can use in the classroom as well. So the next thing, say you've talked with your child, you've met with your teacher. Once again, this is not cookie cutter. However, this is just an example. And you all have tried these plans in and outside of the classroom, and you have been consistent. Consistency is key as well. Then it wouldn't hurt, meet with your student services team at school, which is your counselor, your social worker, school psychologist. They would all be able to provide more ideas or strategies to help with getting your child more motivated about school. And they may share even different ideas that can be implemented in the classroom and at school. So once again, that teamwork. And again, your child sees that. Then the last thing is execute the plan at home and in school. So whatever plan has been devised by the team, including the teacher, the student services team, yourself, even the child, depending on what part. But execute that plan and execute it at home and in school. And then constantly keep in communication with the teacher, with the student services team to say, hi, this is working at home. Maybe you guys should try this. Or this is working at school. Maybe you could try this at home. And once again, be consistent. You know, the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. We're your village. So it really does. It really makes a difference when you can work together as a team. Now, this point is not on the slide, but I do want to emphasize, because this is very noteworthy. There are situations where you may need to seek further professional help. And that is outside of the school's parameters, such as medical care providers, psychologists, therapists, etc. And it's okay if you have to seek that extra help. This is just more people added to that village of raising a child. So they can also help determine any further deficiencies that may be present. So these are just some tools that we wanted to provide you all this evening of how you can help your child if you are starting to notice signs of a lack of motivation. And when you start noticing those signs, don't wait until it's too late. Try to take care of them first. Go ahead and have that conversation with your child. Sometimes it's the hard conversations, but I would rather want to have that conversation with my child and help them to be successful than not have it and they seem like there's a lack of support. So at this time,